he always says, like, my group of friends, my quadri at the beginning were all these retired men because everybody's working sort of too. You're studying still one more year. My husband and boyfriend, or I guess at the time, was working. And so you're in this other dynamic still. So it's like I would go to the mountain. I had 3-hour lunches, which is a very unusual thing for us too. So I would spend half that time in the mountain. I would like walk to school and back, but over the mountain and back. And so I would go and talk to all the old men that were retired there. And that was who my friends were, these old men.
That was your quadrilla.
That was my quadrilla. And none of them are alive now. It's like they've all passed on. This is how old they are, or how old they were, but they've all kind of passed on. So, but to have girlfriends of my own, I was almost till I had children, which is like 4 or 5 years living here, because people, you're such a small town, you're so closed off. Nobody seemed to understand, or it was such a way different perspective. I remember even like when we'd go out with the girlfriends that were with the guys and girls, these groups together, they would always like, I was the foreign one. I was the strange one, the alien that had a different perspective and they didn't agree with. I remember one of them, the boyfriend was going to Washington, D.C. with CAF, which is the train company here, and was going to be gone 3 months. And for her, that was just the end of the world. And I was like, what an experience, a new culture, 3 months. It's something that you can go, you can visit, you can be able to see part of the United States. And she was just like, you just don't understand. And I was like, I've been gone for, 6 months at that point, and I was like, I understand what it's like to be away from family and whatever, but she didn't see the richness of a new culture, a new language, a new people, a chance to travel. And for him, she only saw the 3 months of not being together, and my perspective,
she looked at from her point of
view. And my perspective was wrong. But where I'm the only one against a whole group, then obviously you're always in the wrong in that sense. But it took time. It took time. So,
well, and like you said, you didn't know anything about the culture, but probably no one even told you that one of the difficult things of the Basque Country is to break into these group of cuadrillas, these friends. Like once you break in, but it's a very different system than how we grew up in the United States. Like we are very open to making friends, and we tend to have friends from all circles of life, in the sense of we've got our elementary friends, our junior high school friends, our high school friends, our college friends, our sports friends. Whereas here, they might do that, but their number one group is their quadrilla.
Born
and they're loyal.
Into it.
Born from they were 3-year-olds, they're into that same group of friends.
Yeah. And it's hard to break
and
it.
We evolve.
And the ones that I became close to, those guy friends, are still my friends. The guy friends that are my husband's friends. Because they were open to make that connection or to try to speak to me. Or, I mean, obviously my husband wants to hang out with all his friends, talk to everybody. So you kind of are, when we would go out at night or party or whatever, you're kind of on your own in a sense, because he also wants that time to be, he's been gone. He wants that time to hang out with his friends too. So the ones that had the patience to sit and talk to me in Spanish and Basque and English all mixed together are the ones that I'm still sort of friends with too. But they are guy friends. They're not girlfriends.
Yeah. Which is probably one of the things that you miss the most about is your friends from home compared to your friends that you haven't been able to make here, but it's more because of the differences.
And now it's different. Like you have people that I really can, trust and say anything to, or friends that are loyal, or, I mean, it takes time, but it happens. And I think that girls in general here tend to be a little more closed off than guys, boys. A little more.
Yeah, isn't that quite fascinating?
Yeah. But even I see with my children, I realize that they have more friends that have foreign backgrounds than compared to even their cousins that have both parents from here, but they're just into a different mindset. And my kids who are used to having that other thing, they'll have friends that they're Basque too, but their parents are from Guatemala or from Peru or from Morocco or other places, because they're open to other people that even their cousins that they go to the same school are not open to, which I find is quite interesting as well.
But essentially, like your boys are like me.
Yeah.
They're
both.
They're sons of an immigrant.
Yes.
Sure, Geiska's from here, but you're not. And so they've got this whole other family, family structure that helps to build them and establish what their mindset is about everything.
It's true. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. But I see it as something enriching, which not everybody does. But I do see it as enriching because the more you know, the more you're open
Yeah.
to new things or to try new things or more accepting or hopefully
Opportunities.
opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah. Opportunities. So you worked as a teacher in the United States and you also started teaching here.
Yeah.
Did you see any, visible differences or experiences that were quite different from, what you experienced home in the States to here?
In the States, really, I only subbed because as soon as I graduated, I moved here. So it's like I never taught full time there. It was always just
Mhm.
through like subbing or practice from
Yeah, yeah.
school. I don't know, things that are different. Uh, Here it feels like they're always preparing for the exam. You're always being
Yeah.
tested what you can put on paper, how much you know in paper, even though they do projects and there are oral sort of controls. They sort of call them here controls, like a quiz, like a pop quiz, like an oral
Mhm.
pop quiz to make sure that they're following along in the subject. But it feels like they're always preparing for the exam, that you almost don't have time to study because they're
Yeah.
constantly being examined and and if you're not that type of learner, it's really
Yeah.
hard. Like if you're not an oral
Yeah.
learner or visual learner, it doesn't matter. Even though you're a
Yeah.
great student, you participate, you can understand, you can answer every question in class. If you can't put it on paper in the exam, that's it.
You're not a
You're not a
success. Yeah.
success. And that part I find is sort of frustrating that they don't try to, even though you do in the classwork here, you try to do all three things, your kinetic, your visual,
Mhm.
your audio learning. When it comes down to your grade, it's all based what you put on paper.
Yeah. It's a very limiting,
Mhm.
style. And like you said, if you as an individual aren't adept to do all of those things, you're not going to succeed in that system. And, I think in the United States, what I've seen by being a teacher in there and also teaching here is we create a very well rounded student where they are able to tap into art
Yep.
classes, to graphics, to architecture, to, working on being a nanny in the
Yeah.
schools, cooking. Where's all of those life skills
Yeah, they do
here?
some here, but it's still more limited. Like you don't really have your elective
Yeah.
courses, and your elective courses are all study. They're either like a new language or to help you with your math or civics. That's the third option is
Hmm.
civics. I think through the elementary school, they still have those opportunities where there's still the gardening and they learn how to crochet things and sort of those things that we did as children as well. But then there's a radical cutoff from the junior high, middle school age. All of that sort of disappears instantly, and you're expected to be this more mature, uh, written learner, so that part's
Yeah, yeah.
different.
How about the lifestyle? Did you see quite a bit of a difference in the lifestyle from the States to here? Like how people, did their weekends, like from going out, dinner style,
Um,
time of day, when do you
Everything's
eat?
later. I mean, that part in the US, everything's 24/7. I mean, you can eat, drink, and do
Right?
your shopping whenever you want. Here, you're
Yeah.
really structured. And I remember, like, we'd be traveling and be like, we better stop to eat because if we don't stop by, 2:30, they're not going to serve us lunch. So it's always sort of marked by what's available and when it's available. I think some of that is changing now because there has been sort of a more flux of tourists or things where you can actually find food any time of the day, where before you couldn't. It was very much more marked. I think in the last years, a
Yeah.
lot of that has changed. So that part's different. Everything's later. Lunch is later. Dinner's later. We eat early and go out again after dinner. Here it's like dinner in bed pretty much, or unless you're going out, and then that's later. I think COVID
Yeah.
has changed it because it's become more Americanized schedule. Know that bars close at 8. You got to be home. There's no dinner out. There's lunches out. There's that part has changed, and bar
Yeah.
hopping doesn't exist anymore. Where that was what everybody did. It was bar to bar to bar for
Yeah.
your whatever, for a drink, for something to eat. You just kept moving, and that with COVID doesn't exist. People sit and they stay in their one spot, two or three in the same, more
Yeah.
Americanized. So I don't. I'm curious.
Yeah, the traditional pincho pote bar
Yeah,
hopping that's so traditional this area
yeah,
has kind of been
it's eliminated.
eliminated.
Totally. I'm curious to see as this pandemic comes to an end in the next year by 2022 if things will sort of go back to normal in
Yeah.
another year, or this will really have changed lifestyles
Mhm.
of how people
Yeah, imagine, like you said, the gao
are.
pasa that is very famous here. That's not
It
happening.
doesn't. Yeah. And as a
No.
mom of a soon to be 18-year-old, it's kind of nice. There's a curfew at 10. And I'm not waiting like before a year ago. You'd be waiting till 4 in the
Yeah.
morning for them to come home on a special festival, not like a regular weekend. Usually they came home earlier, but
Yeah.
you're not that waiting and those late hours. They go out
Yeah.
earlier,
Can you
like in the
just
States, they go out by 4 or 5, and then they come. It's the same hours in the end,
mhm.
but it's daytime hours versus nighttime hours. So I'm
Right.
curious for
Yeah,
that.
can you imagine your friends back home? They're probably like, "What? Till 4 a.m.?" Like, no,
Yeah,
impossible. But it's a huge adjustment
yeah,
for. I mean, by the time you had kids, you were used to it. But imagine someone new moving here and realizing they wait, I have a teenager and they get to go out till 4 or 5 in the
yeah,
morning. That's not
yeah.
no, that's not
It's not
happening.
happening, but there's nothing available. Do you know what I mean? I think it's different
No.
maybe in the States too, because you think, oh, they're only going to be up to mischief because there's nothing open. There's nothing available for
Yeah.
them to do. And here
Yeah.
you could be, a concert starts at 11. Like, so by the
Exactly.
time the concert ends and you have a drink after the concert, waiting for the bus, it's 4 in the morning. It's just
Uh-huh.
totally different timetable for everything. So it's all relative. It's the same hours, just at a different schedule. So I'm curious to see if
Yeah.
things will sort of adapt back to, because now they say 10, and they come like 10:15, they feel like it's super early. Like, oh my gosh, it's just like we didn't have time to do anything. I'm like, it's been gone 8 hours. Like, how much more?
Right.
But it's just the
Yeah.
time of day that it is.
The time of day. Yeah. Well, you've already let us know that you're married to someone from the Basque Country. So obviously two different
Yeah.
cultures. What language do you guys speak at home?
Since we had children, it's always English. Before we
Mm-hmm.
used to, because I was new to here, we tried to speak more Basque and Spanish just to improve my level. But as soon as we had children, we switched to English, knowing that their whole life would be in Basque, so that they could learn
Yeah.
English as well and have that as another mother
At home.
tongue, as in addition to Basque. And for us, Spanish is that third one. It's not like other people.
Exactly.
It's kind of our back burner language. And then even my kids, they didn't want French. French is always on the option here, but they're like, if we're going
Uh-huh.
to work anywhere, it's not going to be in Europe. It'll be in the States. And knowing
Yeah.
Spanish is more important than knowing French. So,
French.
um, none of my children have. I've offered to everybody to learn or German or other languages, but none of them have been inclined,
They haven't taken it.
just because I think they feel like their opportunity is back to the US. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and for anyone listening, like imagine this. They have English from home. They get Basque out in the streets with their friends at
Yeah.
school, and they also get Spanish. And essentially, they could have been learning a fourth
Of course.
language.
Yeah.
And that's something that in the United States, we just don't
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And not at the
amazing.
same level either. Do you know what I mean? 'Cause here, English starts at four
No,
years old. So it's
exactly.
like there, it's your junior high before you ever pick up another language, which is a huge 10 years of pronunciation, no, of vocabulary, of everything that you need that ability as a child to do that doesn't come even as a teenager.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. Gosh, Dana. Well, we're going to wrap this up with some the toughest
okay.
questions I have for
Okay.
you. All right. Are you
Yes, hit
ready?
me.
What was the hardest thing about leaving home for you?
Uh, Probably the people that you leave behind. I think as
Hmm.
Americans, we're all foreign in a sense, unless you're a Native American. We're used to that moving and the adventure and let's try something new. I never lived near family. Um,
Hmm.
I'm from Idaho, but my dad's from Oregon, my mom's from Utah, and we never had. They chose Idaho because it was in the middle, and they thought it would be easy to visit
Hmm.
family on either side, but that meant we never had family close by either. So that part didn't. But then you do miss that or the relationships that you leave behind. But everything else is, I think we're more adaptable because as Americans, we're used to adapting to different lifestyles.
Yeah. And I think you hit something that a lot of people here find shocking, the fact our ability to leave home when we're 18, go to
Yeah,
college, that's maybe if we're lucky 2 hours away, maybe, by plane 2 hours
yeah.
away. And but we don't find that odd.
No,
It's something very
very normal.
normal and part of our culture, and we move around. I think you hit one
Yeah.
of the best parts about our
One of
culture that's
You
unique.
asked me like one of the things that was surprising too is like when you would ask like where are you from here, people first identify like the neighborhood that you're from. Well, I'm from San
Hmm.
Martin, but where's that? Well, that's in Ataun. Well, where's that? That's in Goyerre, which is the next. I'm just kind of building, where's that? Well, that's in Gipuzkoa.
Uh-huh.
Well, where's that? That's in the Basque Country. And where's that? Well, that's in Euskal Herria, which is, and then Spain. And then it just builds. And
Yeah.
we do the complete opposite. Where are you from? Because I remember like I was asking the nieces and nephews, we're like, where are you from? And they'd be like, America, like, you idiots. Like, they didn't realize that the place